For our modal test, we've got this to-do test in here, so let's get rid of that to-do and add our test function here. Now let's think about how we expect this modal to be used. If we pull up the unauthenticated app, then we can see exactly how it is used currently, and we can just copy that and paste it in a render right here. And then we know a couple of things that we're going to need. So let's import React from React to create those React elements. We'll import render from testing library React. And then we'll also import the modal and the modal open button and the modal contents from that modal module. And then we don't actually need to worry about the login form or the button. For this, we can just do regular buttons. And we can just call this open for our test. And then here we can make a div, modal content. And then for our label, we can set that to modal label. And for the title, we'll just say modal title. Great, so let's take the screen utility and take a look at what things look like right now with screen.debug. Save that. And here we go. We've got a button that says open. So let's go ahead and click on that. I'm going to import user event from testing library user event. And we'll say user event.click. And we want to click on that button. So we'll say screen get by role button. And the name of that button is open. Great. And once we've clicked on it, then we get the whole modal showing up. So now we want to select elements within this modal and make some assertions, and finally click on this close button. So what I'm going to do is bring in another utility called within to scope some queries down to this modal. So I'm going to get a modal element from screen get by role dialog, and I happen to know that it is dialog, but if you're ever unsure of what roles are available, implicit or otherwise, you can just say blah, and you'll get an error message here that will show you all of the accessible roles. So we have generic roles, and here are all the names for those. Not very useful. But then we have a dialog right here, and a button, and a heading, and that looks like that's all the roles. So we're looking for the dialog, because that's what's containing all of the contents for our modal. So we'll look for a dialog. And now with the modal, we can expect that modal to have attribute aria label. And the aria label it should have is this modal label. We'll save that. And we get a kaboom right here because to have attribute is not a function. And that's because we haven't installed JustDOM. So let's go to our setup tests. And let's install JustDOM just by importing testing library JustDOM. Great, so now Jest has all of the superpowers from JustDOM, and we can make assertions like this. Next, we want to make some more queries, and we need to scope those within the modal. So we're going to use this within utility to get a new set of queries that are in the modal. So we'll say within modal. And now in modal is basically just like screen, except all of the queries on in modal are scoped just to that modal component and won't be able to access anything outside of it. So now I can expect that in the modal, we can get by role heading, and we want to verify that the title is that heading. So we'll say we want a heading that has a name that is modal title. And we expect that to be in the document. So let's make sure that's working. Indeed it is. And now let's make sure we can close the modal. So we'll use user event click on the button that's in the modal with get by role button, and the name is close. And now all we should see is that open button again. So now we can expect screen query by role dialog not to be in the document. And that should get our test passing, which it is. One little change I want to make here is I don't like duplicating this stuff in my test. I want to communicate that those things are actually intentionally the same. So I'm going to make a label for modal label and a title for modal title. And then we'll come over here and replace aria label with simply label, and the title will be our title. And then the aria label will be the label, and then the name of our heading will be the title. And another thing that would probably be a good idea to check for is the modal content. So let's make a content, modal content, and we'll render that inside of here. And we'll expect in modal get by text content to be in the document. And there we go. And we can verify that we are testing what we think we are by breaking some stuff in here. So if I did not accept that children, we didn't render it, then we get a breaking test. So this is giving us some pretty great confidence. In review, what we did here is take the typical usage of the components that we wanted to test here, and we put that directly into our test. And then we interacted with it in the same way the user would. Looking for a button that says open, we clicked on that. We verified that the modal had an ARIA label so it would work nicely with screen readers. We verified that within the modal there was a heading that had the right title and it had the right content. Then we verified that the user could close the modal, and we verified that the modal was indeed closed.